Welcome into hashtag everyone talking about hashtag everything. I am not Kate. I am Ryan Muma, and I had to think for a minute what show I was on because I'm on so many of them. But we're here, and we're getting after it. It's the lovely Laura. It's the marvelous Mac. And, hey, I say I'm not Kate, but Kate's here, but not here because she's on the phone. Kate, what's up?
So, it's really weird, Ryan, to listen to you intro the show. I got to tell you, you kind of threw me for a loop there, and I feel like you need a little more energy is what I feel like. Like, this is Ryan Muma. Something like that. Come on, man.
I have two more segments to correct it. I appreciate the fine words from Kate, so I will take that in consideration.
Well, and this is a lot of trust, because also, since I can't hear you when you're introing the show, and for the listeners, I'm on the phone in Boston, and he's doing this. And so this is like the ultimate trust test, because he could be saying anything before he opens it up so I can hear him. And, that's a little bit scary for me. I got to tell you, I've got trust issues, Ryan. Major trust issues. Well,
I will tell you, all good things, Kate. All good things.
Ryan
will be
all good things. And that's a lot of trust.
Yeah, seriously.
So who else there with you in studio today?
So we have the marvelous Mac. We have the lovely Laura. We are
Magnificent Mac. Magnificent Mac.
Well, I change it up, Kate. It's my intro. It's my intro. But no, you're right. Mac is here. Laura's here. Penny is not with us, but you're again here via the phone in Boston.
Penny's randomly also in Boston.
Yeah, do you know where Penny is, though?
Yeah, in
That's
Boston.
so strange.
Do you know where Penny is right now?
The airport.
Where is she?
I thought she was at the airport in Boston.
You know where Penny is,
in Boston.
Brian?
Yeah, in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. So we really messed up. We should have just had all y'all come to Boston.
I know.
There you go.
That would have
couldn't
gone
do.
live from Boston. What do you think about that?
I got this little thing called college that I can't miss out on.
It takes some days.
It's big and it's
no
boring.
live from Boston for you? You realize there's a Bruins game tonight, right?
You guys going is what you're saying?
Huh?
Are you guys going?
No, unfortunately, no, we are not. Although I would love to. I tried to get them to. There's a sleep study that Elliot has to do tonight. If you're listening to the show and we're doing this, it's because, once again, Elliot and I are in Boston, and it's kind of a long story, and we'll get to it, but I'd kind of like to harass Ryan. If you listen to the show, you know this is part of the very nature, the infrastructure, Mac, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Part of the.
Is it really? Are you the only one there, or is my other teams there?
No, I'm here.
They're here. You can hear them.
Can you not hear me?
Can you hear
I
Laura?
jumped in a couple times.
A major part of this show is you bullying Ryan, I will say.
I can only hear you, Ry.
Well, hold on
You're the
a
only
second.
human I can hear.
This makes zero sense to me at all. How about now?
Hello. Kate, are you there?
Now I can hear you. Were they talking while I was talking?
They were.
No, I couldn't hear any of you.
Now there was really trust
Like,
issues because
like,
we were saying whatever we were saying and she didn't know it.
I had no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear any of you. So, anywho, I'm assuming we want to just keep rolling the tape then in this case, right?
Yeah, just keep rolling it. I think this is perfect.
If you're listening to the show, apologies for those technical difficulties or any weirdness that may have occurred because I couldn't hear my other two co-hosts.
Well,
so,
I
thought it was odd.
I want to throw this out there, Kate, because everyone could hear all of you. You were the only one that couldn't hear them. So I don't know what happened, but now we fixed it, and now we're good. It just welcomes them into how crazy and wild this show is all the time. We never know what's going to happen. We got curveballs everywhere.
Something like that.
Right.
Okay.
All right. What do you got for
All
us,
right.
Kate?
Then in that case, Laura, Mac, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good.
Doing great.
You're doing pretty good. Mac, you sound pretty, are you sleepy? Do we need to do a sleep study on you, too?
We did just talk about the fact that
the
coffee hadn't kicked in.
When your doctor prescribes you to take a little thing called fluoxetine every single morning for the day, you do get a bit. You do always sound a bit tired.
A little groggy, yeah.
Yep, that's the beautiful thing about anxiety medicine. No matter how energetic I am, I'm always yawning.
That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so it makes you sleepy, huh?
Not sleepy, just
groggy.
Yeah.
Actually, Mac, you know what? I'm really glad you brought that up because, first of all, one, thank you for sharing that. But two, I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is that, different medications can, that can make you groggy. You know what I mean? Or just a little bit, sometimes it takes you a little warm up. It's got to get all kicked in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. So, man, it's weird not being able to see your own faces. I wish I could see your faces.
Well, Kate, you're in Boston, sleep study, the whole nine. What are we doing? What do we got going on?
Okay, so we're going to back up for our listeners a little bit.
Okay.
And because I think in the Midwest, well, actually, I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what sleep apnea is and kind of what it does. Because would you say it's a fair assumption, and I'm asking all three of you, that most people think sleep apnea, it just has to do with you don't sleep well at night, right?
I think a generalization,
Yeah,
I'd agree with that a little bit.
It feels like the kind of thing that a lot of old people
so
have.
actually, though, sleep apnea is so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be honest, like, I did not realize that until later. And that's why I thought it was so important to do this show today. Because I think, like, when most people think sleep apnea, they think, oh, it's like my husband, by the way, who doesn't sleep hardly. Tony doesn't sleep well at night. I mean, he just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that most people think that's what it is. And it's really so much more because what sleep apnea is, it's very different from being unable to sleep at night or, just tossing and turning. Those are other issues. But what sleep apnea is, your breathing actually stops and starts during sleep. And I did not know this. When Elliot was a little kid, he would put himself in these weird positions. Anybody ever see a little kid sleep where their butt's up in the air and their head's down? Anybody ever see that?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that with my twins all the time.
Okay. Well, and part of the reason, I just thought that was a cute way kids sleep. And for some, it is just a cute way for kids to sleep. But for others, the reason they're sleeping like that is it helps open their airway.
Fascinating.
Really?
It's one of your body's kind of natural responses. And so it's one of the things that little ones do. So when Elliot was born, first of all, I didn't have a clue what sleep apnea was. And I had zero idea. I mean, he was a great sleeper. I mean, sometimes he slept with his butt up in the air, but I didn't think two things about it. And snoring, not really. He wasn't really a snorer. So when I say I would not ever have gotten him tested for sleep apnea unless it was part of the pediatric medical guidelines for a child with Down syndrome, I wouldn't have done it. And I would say, Ryan, you've got two littles. You ever had them tested for sleep apnea?
No. That's not something we've even
Mac,
thought
you ever
of
been
yet.
tested
No.
for sleep apnea?
I don't think so. It was never really a problem.
Laura?
I'm just a loud snorer anyways. I mean,
You might have
part of
it then.
I don't know.
No, I have an apnea sleeper next to me at night, so I knew a little bit, and I didn't chime in earlier.
Yeah.
But the
Okay,
kids, I've
so
never bothered to have
anyway.
kids done.
Yeah, well, and I think most people wouldn't. And you can say, well, Kate, with most of the population, it's probably not an issue. Well, you may be right, or you may not be right, because you can find sleep apnea in a lot of different children. But it can have loud snoring. It can have daytime fatigue. It can have difficulty concentration, headaches, being crabby, waking up frequently in the night. But one of the things that can also happen, if you are a little bit overweight, it can happen. But it can cause, and this is the part that most people don't think, they just think tired, it can cause complications with heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, Ryan. It's crazy, all the different things. And for children, very often, sleep apnea mimics ADHD. And so we're learning so much more about this because the real danger with sleep apnea is that it will knock your heart out of rhythm. And once you do that, then you're on medication for the rest of your life. And so it's a wild thing. And when I say with our journey with Elliot, the only reason we checked this was because of Down syndrome. However, what we're really finding, especially with kids who have acute sinusitis, who get a lot of upper airway infections and things like that, a lot of times these children actually have sleep apnea. They're simply undiagnosed.
So let me ask you.
Still there?
No. Let me ask you this. So with Elliot with Down syndrome, you kind of laid it out, but like, what is the biggest connection with the two? You know, is this something that...
right, because you said that is the protocol for children with Down syndrome to have that study.
Like, why is that, I guess?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple different answers because there's not one.
Sure.
One, there's an extraordinarily high percentage of children with Down syndrome who have sleep apnea, period, just right out of the gate. I mean, it's crazy high. I think it's upwards of 70%. Actually, I have yet to ever... it would be more rare for a child or an adult with Down syndrome to not have sleep apnea than to have it. So it's just it's kind of like, you know, how we say with the heart related issues, 50 to 70% of children and adults with Down syndrome have a heart issue, you know, and when you look at the Alzheimer's issues, well, it's the same with sleep apnea. And I would say the sleep apnea and the heart issues probably kind of go hand in hand to a certain extent. But you also have, with children with Down syndrome, you have those smaller airways because they have the lower muscle tone. And so those are naturally more restricted. And obviously, so it is part of the pediatric protocol. Unfortunately, when you look at the pediatric protocol, it doesn't take into consideration, as you edge into the adult guidelines, how children grow. And so, like, it may say, and it does say in the pediatric guidelines, every child with Down syndrome before the age of 4 should have a sleep study done. Like, period. Every child. However, the problem with that is some children present with sleep apnea when they're 4, and some do not. And you say, well, that's great. Yeah, it's great, except at 10, 11, 12, 13, as they grow, they develop sleep apnea. Parents and providers think they've done all that needs to be done because, yeah, we did a sleep study 5 years ago, and we didn't test positive, so why on earth would we need to do one again? And the answer is because they grow. No different than, like, Ryan, you might not have had sleep apnea when you're 16, but as you edge upward towards 30, sorry, you know, I want to get you kind of prepped for that, you know, when you go over the stuff there.
No doubt.
You may develop it. You may develop it as it. So one of these days, my hope and my prayer is these guidelines for children and adults with Down syndrome will recommend testing for sleep apnea about every 5 years.
Well,
and maybe if they don't have it, you know, after 3, you know what I mean, 3 tests, then maybe you can consider yourself fine. But it can develop, and it also can be like, for example, with Elliot, he had his first sleep study done at 4. He did pop positive for sleep apnea. We went in, we removed his tonsils and adenoids. We did a repeat sleep study, and he no longer had sleep apnea. Yes, right?
Right.
Yep.
We went about 2 more years, and for whatever reason, I was just mingling a little bit, you know, like, we did it, but he's had all these sinus issues, you know, kind of, he's gotten a little bigger. Maybe I should just ask for another sleep study. And we did it, and he popped positive for severe sleep apnea.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of began leading us on this journey. And in the process, I've begun learning a lot more about sleep apnea. For example, we have a neuropsych who we do neuropsych testing with Elliot every 2 years. We do this because of the predominance for Alzheimer's and in his population, and wanting to make sure that he's growing and developing the way that we need to, so we can tweak his care. However, one of the things the neuropsych is adamant about is that children should not ever be diagnosed with ADHD without a sleep study.
So you caught my attention a minute ago because I have a kiddo with chronic sinusitis and ADHD, and not one doctor ever, and I've been to plenty of specialists, ever recommended that, a sleep study.
A sleep study, yeah. Well, and it's not part of the protocol. Doctors, to a large part, are amazing humans, but there are protocols. Right. And if it's not part of those protocols and those recommendations, then very often they don't check it. However, from a neurological standpoint, you should not ever, ever have a child that you're medicating or treating for ADHD without first having a sleep study done, because the symptoms so closely mirror it. Isn't that wild?
It is wild.
That's crazy.
It is. And I know, Kate, we're up against it time wise. No, you're good. We're up against it time wise, and I want to give you plenty, more runway, and we'll do it more in the next segment. So we'll take a quick time out. We'll come on back and hear more about Kate, and obviously her trip out to Boston, and again, sleep apnea and the whole nine. So keep it right here. This is Hashtag Everyone, talking about Hashtag Everything. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hashtag Everyone, talking about Hashtag Everything. I'm Ryan Muma here in the downtown Quincy studios. I am with who I am calling today, the marvelous Mac, and the lovely Laura as well. We are penniless, but we have over-the-phone Kate here with us. Kate, was that better? Was that a better intro?
I was thinking that had more energy.
Yeah.
It did have more energy, and I have to tell you, I love the penniless. We are penniless. That's amazing. That's like a Matt Keyholt joke right there.
Right.
Penniless. We are penniless. Right. I love it.
Just trying to bust out the dad jokes here and there, you know what I'm saying? That's how it goes. Absolutely.
You know what? Maybe we should do a show on that one of these days. Have you and Mac do the dad jokes, because I feel like you both could come up with some doozies.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Boo. Boo.
Boo-hoo!
Oh, why do you have to be such a crybaby? Elliot taught me that one.
There it is.
Okay. I can't hear Kate, but I can hear you two.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, just so you know, Ryan and Mac, you guys sound like you're in a bucket to me, so I'll do my best not to interrupt you when you're talking.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine.
Okay, so going back in the first segment, we were talking. Oh, wait, actually, I've been remiss. Today is October 26th, and I did not thank everybody who turned in artwork and their scholarship application. So thank you all, and we're excited, and we will be announcing those recipients at Rhinestones and Rodeo this year. But thank you to everyone who put in artwork or got their scholarship applications in. Anyway,
I did
so now
say
I'm in
last
Boston.
week for everyone to do it, so I hope everyone did it.
Good. That makes me so happy. Okay, so Elliot and I are in Boston, and just so everybody knows, in the first segment we're talking about sleep apnea, what it requires, all those different pieces. Well, and also that children need to have a sleep study before they should be diagnosed with ADHD. You really, kind of like to Mac's point about medication and the way it makes you groggy. One of the things that we find very often with children who are taking ADHD meds and the medication's not working, they're getting groggy. They can't find the right medication. Well, if you don't have sleep apnea, if you don't have ADHD and you actually have sleep apnea, ADHD medication doesn't work on, it only works if you actually have ADHD. Get it? Does that make sense to y'all?
It does, yes.
Yeah. And so, but it's also hard to find the right medication that works with whatever's going on. And so most people are trying all these different medications. And again, to Laura's point, nobody's saying, hey, have you had a sleep study done? So it's pretty intriguing. Anyway,
right to point out, it wasn't the doctors, it's the protocol. So just as you were saying, you would like to see the protocol for the Down syndrome community for every child to be tested more than once. I would like to see the protocol for every kid that's diagnosed with ADHD, especially if they have that secondary chronic sinusitis. I mean, that would be great. Who knew?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think I think it's a fair assumption to think most people think this is something that happens to 50-year-olds.
Right.
You know what I mean? You get sleep apnea when you're old and you're snoring. You know what I mean? Like that's what happens.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Mac, I'm going to tell you right now, if you snore, even though you're young, you should probably go get a test done. Mm-hmm. Truly. I'm just not even. And I would tell anybody to do so. And if you have any daytime fatigue, difficult headaches, any of those different things, those are some of the symptoms.
Well, because at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt. You've already laid out, a lot of different things that, having sleep apnea or having, sleep difficulties, right, can
mm-hmm.
cause. At the end of the day, when we sleep, our body is like replenishing, if you will. That's the body's time to kind of replenish. So if you're not getting the adequate kind of sleep and you're snoring or restless or whatever the case, right, of everything you just laid out, it can cause other problems, down the line. Even weight gain has been talked about as well. Like if you don't get adequate amount of sleep, your body isn't doing what it needs to do from a metabolism standpoint to burn fat, things like that. And so I didn't mean to rhyme there. And then ultimately, you gain a little bit, possibly a little bit of weight. Again, everyone's different. But again, there's this whole, it's funny that you're talking about all this because there is a vast, just, my father has sleep apnea. And so, kind of seeing him, have the machine and the mask and how it's kind of helped him in so many ways for so many years. There's a lot of different health things that go along with just simply getting a good night's sleep. And it sounds wild, but it's true.
Yeah, I do think it's wild. And, what I find really amazing is doctors to this day really don't exactly know why we need sleep. Like they, you know what I mean? Like, yes, the assumption is that lack of sleep. I mean, it's a torture to not let somebody sleep. I mean, that's one of the ways you can torture somebody is to not let them go to sleep. And it's a real deal. For whatever reason, our bodies do need, and they do require it. And lack of sleep, and like in Elliot's case, we had no idea that he wasn't sleeping well. So it very much can masquerade too. We just didn't know. And again, so our journey was, we got our diagnosis, we got it cured, we went back for whatever reason, just because I had this niggling. We come back, he's got sleep apnea again. And we're like, ooh. So, of course, we get fitted for the CPAP. Mm-hmm. And in Elliot's case, something really bizarre happened, although I think it's a bad thing. In Elliot's case, when they had scrubbed, because they have to put sensors on during the sleep study, and the gal, and you kind of have to clean the area so the sensor will stick in the scalp. In Elliot's case, the gal had scrubbed a little hard, and she caused an irritation, which led to an inflammation, which led to an overreactive immune response.
Oh,
wow.
And we go home, and we're trying to, implement this CPAP thing, that goes over his head. But I think there's, gum stuck in from the sleep study in his hair. I mean, because that's what it kind of looked like. And I couldn't get it out, so I was trying to get it out, because he was, little. He was, only 8 at the time. And anyway, it won't come out. So I finally go to our doctor, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here, this gummy stuff. And he's like, Kate, that's not gummy stuff. I go, what do you mean? He goes, that's a scalp. You need to go. He instantly sent me to a dermatologist who explained what had happened, that because of this overreactive immune response, everywhere there was a little sensor that it had gotten irritated, he had what seemed like it was his actual scalp. And so there was no removing it. And the doctor said, if it were you or me, because individuals with Down syndrome have an exceptionally high pain tolerance, we would be screaming because it would feel like your whole head was on fire.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So obviously you can't implement a CPAP that you're strapping something to a child's head whenever their head feels like it's on fire. And he had to go through 3 months of medication to get that better. And so anyway, by that point in time, and I felt like a horrible mother, but there's no way I could have known. I mean, Laura, please tell me you've had that happen where you're like, I had no idea that was going on. And then you feel like an awful mother, a failure, a parent.
Okay, well, today, James needs a sleep study, okay? I'm just like, holy cow.
It's true. You felt all the emotion.
That makes you feel
That's right, yes.
Well, I mean, I feel like parenting, that kind of goes hand in hand. Sorry, Mac, I know you aren't there yet, but I'm just going to tell you, it's one of the things that occasionally happens. Anyway.
I'm getting ready for it. I'm trying my best to prepare for it.
I'm glad you're prepared for it. You're going to be a great dad one of these days. Anyway, so while Elliot was on this medication while we were waiting, the NDSD National Convention came. And so obviously we went to the sessions that were on sleep apnea because we're like, we got to figure something out here. What are we going to do with this kid? I don't want to make his heart, because my concern, obviously, Ryan, you would understand this, it was the heart-related issues. I didn't want to cause any stress on his heart.
Right.
And Anyway, so we went, and during the session, Dr. Sally Schatz at Cincinnati was talking about how with some kids, they have a further obstruction. They don't just have sleep apnea. They have, like in 1% of the kids, they have an obstruction at the base. And no matter what you do, like a CPAP is not ever going to help them. But the only way you know that is if you do a sleep endoscopy or a STEN MRI. And Tony and I looked at each other and we're like, you got to be kidding me. I had no idea. I mean, why are we trying a CPAP if we've never had the sleep endoscopy? Because what if he has, this other thing down there that's obstructing the flow, and a CPAP won't work anyway? Because FYI, this is the other part that's weird about protocol. Even though they recommend every child with Down syndrome have a sleep study, they don't recommend that every child with Down syndrome have a sleep endoscopy. And a sleep endoscopy is something, it's very simple. You can do it at the same time that you do like ear tubes, which is how we ended up doing ours the first time. Elliot needed ear tubes in, so we had to put him out anyway. So they did the sleep endoscopy at the same point in time. And kind of for a thing, just so you guys know, so many kids need freaking ear tubes. Why wouldn't you just do the sleep endoscopy at the same time you're putting the ear tubes in? Doesn't take, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems common sense to me. And when it comes to kids with Down syndrome, you would think that would be just part of the protocol, but it's not. And a typical parent wouldn't know to ask for such a thing because, heck, I didn't even know what sleep apnea was. Why would I be thinking, do you guys get what I'm saying?
Never even heard of a sleep endoscopy.
No.
Never even heard that term.
Yeah, I mean,
so, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's how you, and one of those kids, that you have something more, and the treatment at that point in time is really bad. They have to go in and they have to shave the tongue base. They do all these different things because they have to get that airway open so that proper oxygenation is occurring. However, Dr. Schatz presented on this thing called a hypoglossal nerve stimulator, and that there was a research trial available for it. So we get done with the conference. We went back. We had Elliot. He had his ear tubes thing. We asked for a sleep endoscopy so we could make sure before we redid the CPAP machine that it was going to work, because I'm like, I'm not spending the time, energy fighting a child to get a CPAP to work when it might not. So let's find that out for sure. Well, sure enough, in all things Elliot, winner, winner, chicken dinner, he had the obstruction. He was the 1% of the kids who it didn't matter what we would have done. We could have figured out how to get that mask and everything on beautifully, and it wouldn't have done one bit of good because he had a further obstruction.
Wow.
And the doctor came in and sat down and started to detail the horrible surgery I was telling you about, and I interrupted her. I know that probably doesn't shock anybody. And I said, what about the hypoglossal nerve stimulator? Would that work? And she's like, my God, how do you even know about that thing? And, a lot of doctors don't even know about that in that study. And I said, well, we've been going to this National Down Syndrome Congress where they bring all the medical experts. And she's like, yeah, actually, I think you would be a candidate. And so Elliot was, by the time that all happened, he was 9. And you had to be 10 to be part of the trial. But it took us about a year to get all the paperwork and the acceptance and all the different pieces and paper in order to be accepted. So Elliot had the hypoglossal implanted when he was 10. And Ryan, how close are we getting to the top of the hour?
You're just about a minute out. So just, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll finish this part of it, and then we'll go into part 3 in the next segment. So it took about a year for us to get accepted into the trial. And then we had to wait literally for him to, turn 10. And we, and in our case, of the 21 kids in the country done at that time, 19 of them had been done by Dr. Hartnick out in Boston. And he's the lead researcher. He's the one who figured this out for these kids. And so off to Boston we went. We were extremely lucky. Insurance said okay. And we headed out to Boston, and we were successfully implanted with the hypoglossal nerve stimulator, which was has been and continues to be an amazing experience for us, and has unintended side effects for children with Down syndrome in that improved fluency of speech, improved sentence utterance length, improved cognition, improved behavior, and improved, did I say fluency of speech, speech and language? It's amazing. It's been amazing, all of which we noticed instantly. And Elliot has been successfully implanted for the last 7 years with the hypoglossal nerve stimulator, and we continue to see growth and gains. And when we come back, I'll tell you about why we ended up back here in Boston again, and why, again, it's so important to continue to repeat sleep studies. But for now, Ryan, I'll let you close us out.
Oh,
this
look
is
at that.
hashtag everyone.
Talking about hashtag
Tag
everything.
everything.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to hashtag everyone. Talking about hashtag everything. And I'm Ryan Muma, of course, breaking it down here in studio. We have the marvelous Mac. We have the lovely Laura. Penniless we are, but Kateless we are not, because we do have Kate over the phone for our third and final segment. We've been learning all things sleep study, as obviously Kate is out in Boston for that exact thing. Kate, I want to kind of piggyback off of, everything that you have said, and the fact that, look, you're back out there, in Boston. You had, or Elliot rather, had the procedure when he was 10, right? So now, is it, what are the checkups consist of? Like, what is the, for lack of a better way of saying it, maintenance kind of consist of after a procedure like this for someone like Elliot, for, again, a child with Down syndrome?
Okay, so sometimes, Ryan, you do something really radically wonderful, and I just could kiss you. Right now happens to be the one.
That's how I do.
And by the way, guys, that was the best intro. Best intro. Third time was the charm.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you,
Anyway.
Kate. Thank you.
You're not fired anymore.
Okay, so we were going back to those protocols, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's go back. Your question is, so here's the thing. When you're part of a research trial, there are very strict guidelines. They follow you for approximately 5 years, right? Give or take.
Yeah.
And, those are very strict because it's part of a research trial. Boom.
Yeah.
Once you exhaust that, so like for Elliot, that was basically you had to go, there were strict things we had to follow in the first 2 years, that we committed to in order to be part of the trial. And then after that, for, the next 3, it was just an annual sleep study to make sure everything was going well and seeing improvements. Well, Elliot turns 18 in June, and in answer to your question, there's no protocol. Like, there aren't. So, like, if, Ryan, you went to Dr. Sheffield, who does the procedure in Quincy for, typical adults. So if you're listening to the show and you're like, what about this hypoglossal thing? Is it something I can do? Yes, for a typical adult who is wearing a CPAP, you go to Dr. Sheffield. He'll tell you if you meet the requirements to be able to put it in, and you can be implanted. It's an outpatient, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. They do thousands of these. So Elliot's is different because he was a child when he was implanted. It was part of a research trial. It was part of something specific to Down syndrome. But for most of you, like if you're an adult and you get implanted, you're good. You're done. Your sleep apnea is taken care of. You would have a follow-up sleep study at some point to make sure everything's working and titrating, but the only reason you would ever go back in is to have your battery checked, or to, if you had significant weight gain or loss, to kind of titrate the machine. Make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay, so, and again, this is why I'm glad. This is why we're back out in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So it had been 3 years, because once we did the 5th, like Elliot was doing so well, we hadn't done a sleep study in 3 years. And Elliot weighed 65 pounds originally when he was implanted. And we've continued to see growth. However, Elliot now weighs 138 pounds. And so, and I would say the vast majority of that growth has occurred probably in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
He hit 5'2". Before that, he was probably in that 65 to 100 pound weight range. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't, and there was just something I thought, he's getting ready to turn 18. He is double the size. We probably need to get this checked again. and do a follow-up sleep study. Again, it's not part of the protocol. There's no recommendation. It was just that little mommy radar that sometimes goes off.
Right.
And I think dads get it too, but in this case, so, I said, do we need to have a sleep study? And all of Elliot's doctors said, yeah, we probably think that's a good idea. He's gotten a lot bigger. Let's check it. And the other reason why is because his valve had started leaking again, where he had his AV. So he had AV canal repair on his heart when he was 4 months old. And before we implanted, his heart doctors thought while he was in high school, we would have to do open heart surgery, which was a major bummer. After he implanted, getting his sleep apnea fixed took the pressure off of the leaking in his heart. And so his heart quit leaking, which was awesome, or not leaking any more than yours or mine leaks. All hearts leak. I think a lot of people don't know that,
I did not
too.
know that.
No.
So anyway, he, when we went back in this last time for his doctor appointment at Mayo, the doctor said, I think we're probably going to need to watch this a little bit more. He's having some leaking, which in my head went, we haven't had a sleep study in 3 years. Do you think we should probably do that? And he's like, yeah, his heart doctor's like, yeah, I really think you probably should. So off to Boston we went because we obviously, if we're doing this, we want, the way you develop protocols is somebody has to be the guinea pig, right?
Sure.
And so we went back out and a month ago, and Elliot failed his sleep study.
Mm-hmm.
He failed it. His sleep apnea was back, which was just devastating. We were like, and my hope was that he had grown so much. That was that they just needed to turn the machine up because it has different levels, in size and lots of different things. However, if it came to pass that he'd grown and it wasn't working, then we would have had to look at more invasive surgeries because in Elliot's case, it's not optional for him to have sleep apnea with his heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It would hurt him. You guys following?
I am, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
okay. So anyway, obviously,
well, hold on.
lots of prayer.
So hold on. Pause, Kate. Mac, what were you gonna say?
So, when you say it's not optional for Elliot, is that because with his heart leakage that the sleep apnea poses an extremely kind of serious threat to it than it would say if I had it or if Ryan had it, just as being normal people? Like how does that work out?
Yes, Mac. I mean, so for most people, again, for what's the danger of you having sleep apnea?
I'm just
the
really
danger
loud.
for you having sleep apnea is that over time, the sleep apnea would damage your heart, throw it out of rhythm, and you would end up on heart-related medication.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? The danger for Ryan with his diabetes is that it would cause further complications for Ryan based on that, but it would be an overtime thing.
Yeah.
Elliot, in his case, the sleep apnea causes a strain on his heart because we know he has a pre-existing heart condition. Does that make sense?
So it would be an immediate danger.
It's very important that he get the proper oxygenation to his heart. And so, anyway, that's why I say it's not optional, because I would like, if you can avoid having to be on heart medication, I think everybody would agree. Wouldn't you like to avoid being on heart medication?
100%.
We've been lucky with Elliot. We're, soon to be 18 years in, and he's on no medication, which is awesome. And I think something that a lot of people don't realize is, for lack of a word, #possible for people with Down syndrome. But many people with Down syndrome, if you take proper care along the way, you don't have to be on medication unless you have a condition that requires medication. That makes sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I think most of this is kind of some things that you naturally assume about people. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, anyway. So in his case, I'm really happy as I sit here talking to you guys today, because yesterday we did, when we came back out, we had to do a sleep endoscopy because they had to turn this machine up or see if that was going to work. And, and if it didn't, then we were going to be back at the drawing board at square one. And so, and I just was praying, please, I really hope this is because he's grown so much and he just needs the adult version, not the child version.
Right.
And so as I sit here this morning, guys, we can have a party.
Oh, party!
because when they did the sleep endoscopy yesterday morning, they were able to turn up his machine, and it really is that. It's that he needs the adult version because he's 138 pounds, and he's 5'2", and he's not a itty bitty kid anymore. And so they turned up the machine and changed the settings and retitrated everything while he was out. And they're like, "Yep, works like a champ." To which I'm like, "Oh, praise Jesus!" And anyway, tonight we will do another sleep study because the technicians from Inspire will kind of tweak it just a little more to make sure he's getting fully, properly oxygenated. But it's exciting. I mean, it's a blessing. And then we'll fly home tomorrow. But I want to thank you guys for letting us do this show. And I hope if people are listening that it helps maybe a little bit understand, because again, I do think most people are just like, it's sleep apnea. I don't feel, you know what I mean? You're right. I don't sleep well, or I snore, or I this, or I that. But it really is something that can have extremely serious complications. And they're still learning this stuff about sleep. And so I feel like since those protocols for #everyone really aren't in place, I mean, they just aren't. I mean, like, Laura, you were talking about your kiddo, you know what I mean? Like, he's got ADHD, and he's had sinus-related issues, and nobody's ever suggested he have a sleep study. Well, it's because those protocols aren't in place yet.
Right.
And so I
I'm really not a bad mom.
Right, yeah,
no, you aren't a bad mom. I mean, it's just not something that most people, I think, really think about. And I do think it's something that's easy for people to kind of, poo-poo, you know what I mean? Like, nobody sleeps right. What difference does it make? I do think it's something like that. And I also think, the CPAP machines, I mean, Ryan, you said your dad had them. I think a lot of them, that kind of turns people off a little bit because they're like, well, I don't want to wear that thing on my face.
No,
well,
100%.
there's other things that can be done to treat sleep apnea that are out there if you don't want that. But to leave it untreated can be dangerous.
It very much can be. It very much can be. And I think just as we wrap things up here, Kate, and again, I loved the whole story of what you guys are doing and everything else in between. Obviously, as you were out in Boston with Elliot, doing your thing as always. But it's one of those deals where it doesn't hurt to go and get it checked out. What's the hurt in asking? What's the hurt in all of that? Whether it's, not something that's a major concern or something that, might be, or whatever the case, right? So I think overall it does not hurt at all to go and ask those questions and see what you can ultimately do. But Kate, you are tremendous. You are awesome. Laura, Mac, appreciate you guys as always as we're wrapping up the show here today. But safe travels when you're on your way back, Kate.
Thanks. And hey, Ryan, one more thing before they go.
Yeah.
What most people also, if you're even considering it, go and talk to your doctor and get on a wait list, because there are a lot of there's a wait time. Like it takes 3 to 6 months usually to get put on the schedule. Yeah. So, if you're even considering it, I just recommend that you call your doctor and kind of ask to be put on the schedule. You can change your mind, you can have further conversations, but you do want to get, if you decide today you want one, it's going to be about 3 months to 6 months before you're able to get one.
Right.
So just kind of be cognizant of that as well.
No doubt. No doubt. You guys are awesome. Each and every one of you. Appreciate everyone coming along for the ride here today. Again, this has been #everyone, talking about #everything. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
All right. Thank you.